Good morning. My name is Jane Pryne. I'm the interim superintendent for the Sequim School District, and I have two special guests with me this morning. I have Mark Harris, who is our principal at Sequim Middle School, and our assistant principal, Candace Ward, who is also at Sequim Middle School. So we are going to start off this morning with an icebreaker question for you, Mark. Growing up, what was the worst style choice you ever made?
Ooh, the worst style choice. Considering the number of bad style choices I've made, that's pretty tough. I guess if anybody were to meet me today, they'd look at my shiny head and go, oh, that poor guy doesn't have any hair. Well, when I was younger, I had quite a bit. And I definitely lived through the time period where I sported a mullet for a chunk of time. I was a soccer player, so there was a time period I had that soccer ponytail. And then the other bad hair choice was my senior year. For whatever reason, I decided I should get a perm. And so I had an afro bigger than any of my African-American friends. They used to tease me that I was the whitest black kid they knew. Wow. So it was pretty sad. And even now, my family and friends periodically send me shots of that senior class picture just to torment me.
You know, that I have to tell you, that was not what I thought you were going to say, your hair choice styles. So, Mark, I can only visualize you because Mark is completely hairless on the top of his head. Usually we see him with a hat on when he's outside. And to think of you with a ponytail or a mullet or a perm, you are the first male that I've ever heard asked for a perm. So there we go. I learned something new today. Candace, how can you top that? What was the worst style choice you ever made?
I don't think I can, but I need a picture of that. I'm going to contact his wife. So it's going to have to be a little unique thing for our staff. I think the worst choice I made was also hair. I did sport the mullet in the 80s. I don't know why. I was in third grade and my mom thought it was fashionable. But the worst one that I got to choose was, I remember I was 8th grade, and it was the bigger the hair, the better. So I had bangs that I can honestly say got about 4 inches high. And we would get really creative with the Aquanet and the hair lacquer. And when they wouldn't hold, we would mix egg whites and blow dry them straight up. Who ever thought of that? Except a middle schooler. I don't know. But we would have egg white bangs. There you
go. So I have learned 2 new things today. First of all, Mark and Candace are at the middle school. So I am glad to have you tell us some middle school stories. That is fabulous. I'm trying really hard not to laugh. Mark.
Yeah.
When you look at your team and the systems you have in place, what are the 1 or 2 bright spots in your school you're most proud of?
I'd have to say that, we've made a transition. Last year, we did some learning around Generation Z. And that kind of opened some eyes to the fact that education wasn't necessarily reaching as many kids as it used to in the form and the way we were doing it. So our staff really took that to heart and began to start to tinker with and play with ideas in the spring. COVID almost facilitated that. Not that that's a good thing, but their direction and openness was great. And then we've continued that and our district partners in the other buildings are doing the same now. They really began to focus on UDL, Universal Design for Learning. And the whole focus with that is starting all lessons and instruction with children understanding the why of what they're doing. And I can reflect back to, that used to be the running joke in some classes when I was a kid. So being able to answer that is a great piece. But really the part that I'm most impressed by as we dive into this UDL world is how many teachers have been able to eliminate barriers for kids. They've been able to recognize that, maybe reading or writing or something else is a struggle. They haven't just made accommodations for those kids who might have the struggle. They've opened that up to every kid. So in many cases, some of the things that we used to write in 504s and IEPs as specific accommodations, they're unnecessary now because every kid has that as an option for how they approach the work they do.
Great. Thank you very much. And Candace, what do you see as the 1 or 2 bright spots in your school that you're most proud of?
So for myself, being the assistant principal, I deal with a lot of discipline. So last year we had a challenging year, and students were trying to get to know us, and so we saw a lot of things rise. And I brought to Mark, we really needed SEL, so social emotional learning for these students. And I asked him if we could start doing some sort of groups with some of our paras and start to like kind of just do groups for some of our high flyers to try to be able to acclimate a little bit better. And when you tell Mark you want to do something, he dreams bigger than you even dream, which is awesome. So when I said that, he's like, sure, and gave me the paras and gave me all the opportunities. And then he's like, well, what about a class? And so this year we have brought in a teacher that is teaching 3 sections of SEL. So we have a 6th grade, a 7th grade, and an 8th grade SEL class. And she is doing an amazing job. And we are seeing such results in our building across all of our classes. So it's been pretty amazing.
That is amazing. So how do students get chosen, or is it self-selection to get into those classes?
So no, at this point, it's not self-selection. We did because last year we looked at what was the need, talked to our schools with the incoming 6th graders, and then we didn't want it to just be that class that people looked at as, oh, those are the bad kids, because I hate that term. We wanted it to be a class that was a mixed group. So maybe some kids that just went unnoticed and the ones that would fall through the cracks. We wanted some kids that had some challenges, and then we wanted to mix some of our kids with 504s and IEPs that could really benefit from the whole group perspective for everybody to just learn some new techniques. And so we have a team that went through everything and looked at data and discipline and attendance, and we chose from that.
Great. Thank you very much. Mark, you can learn a lot about a person by what they read.
Okay.
Who are 3 of your favorite authors, and why did you choose them?
Okay. Well, let's starting from the kid world, kid books. I'd go with J.K. Rowling. That being because my oldest daughter was a late emerging reader. She couldn't decode the letters and sound out words until she got to 2nd grade. But she had an awesome 1st grade teacher who never let her know she couldn't read. So her attitude about reading never shifted. So when all of a sudden the light switch went on and she began to figure out that those symbols could be crafted into sounds that could make the words that she already knew, she just took off. And she read a kid book, but the very second book that kid picked up in grade 2 was the first Harry Potter book.
Wow.
And that 2nd grader read through all of Harry Potter. So that pretty much etched that in stone for me. I have family that's still in England, so when the book started to come out, we started to get the English copies sent over for my kids when as soon as they were released, and managed to get a cousin to stand in line and get an autograph of J.K. Rowling for my 2 daughters when book number 4 came out. So that was pretty cool. Other authors that I'm kind of an avid reader, and the staff that know me know I'm usually reading 2 to 3 books at any given time. So it's hard to narrow it down, but some people have made a big difference. I think Bill Bryson, he's an author that wrote the history of nearly everything. And it's an integral description of how people who do scientific thought go about the thinking that changed the way I started to look at all sorts of things. And then I started to pick up his other pieces, and they are all reflective pieces that look back at what we as human beings do in practice. And that's helped me kind of realize that's part of my job too, is to step back and look and think and understand what people are doing. And the last one is at the moment, I never don't pick up a Craig Johnson book. That's the Walt Longmire series. And part of that has to do with the fact that I kind of have some of those self-reflective thoughts in my head at all time, whether I'm at work or I'm at home. And having interesting characters around me, that is the only nice way to describe my life. So,
Well, Mark, thank you. Candace, who are your 3 favorite authors and why?
So, yeah, that was really hard for me. I am not the avid reader. When I was in 2nd grade, they started speed reading in Los Angeles. And so I actually ended up developing, similar to like how a dyslexic reads, I actually, instead of flipping letters, I flip words per sentence. So it takes me a lot longer to read. So when I do read, I have to be super into it. So one of them was Suzanne Collins and the Hunger Games series, because definitely anything that takes you out of reality for a little bit, that you can envision something else. I like to not be so serious all the time. And that was the first series that I was able to read in like 3 days. And I didn't struggle because I could actually envision things. And I love an author that does that. The other is Dr. Seuss. And the reason for Dr. Seuss is because I truly think that everybody should not take themselves so seriously, and everybody should have fun and be goofy. And just when you read it, you can't help but laugh and giggle and go, where did he come up with this stuff? So that was my favorite one to always read to my kids. And then last is Renee Brown. And I'm really excited because our leadership team is reading that now. But I actually listened to her books on tape, and she narrates most of them. And she is so funny. But what she really teaches you is how to not just be a leader in your job, but a leader in life. And she also, it resonates with me when she talks, because it's, you know, you have to take care of yourself and self-care so that you could take care of others. And she really focuses on being the whole person and being the best version of you. So as a leader, I've really appreciated all of her work.
So thank you. So what your authors tell me is you enjoy reading Suzanne Collins and the Hunger Games, and you enjoy those stories, along with Renee Brown, who has some leadership opportunities for us to talk about, and Dr. Seuss, who we don't take ourselves too seriously. I mean, who doesn't love Dr. Seuss, really? I used to belong to the Dr. Seuss Club, and every month I got a book. That it was a Dr. Seuss book when I was growing up. It's the only mail I probably got for the first 12 years of my life. I don't know, but it was really fun. Okay, last question. What changes have you made, Mark, in your school during this COVID-19 pandemic that have helped you navigate and move your school forward? What are some of the lessons that you and Candace are going to take away that we will keep and we will continue at the middle school?
As you unroll that question, my brain keeps shifting. But let me start with some easy pieces. Some things we will always make changes at school that are obvious and visual. If you come on our campus, you probably would recognize and see, hey, I can see school colors more than I did before. We have one of our custodial folks is a painter by expertise. And so he took his paintbrush and filled in the letters for our school sign with our school color. And then he's done the same in the building and put our splashes of color in a variety of places in our building. He's helped take our display boards and spruce those up as well. We put some signs around the building. Bless one of our staff members who just has given us the names of all of the teachers, and we put those at the heads of the hallways so people can see those. We've added the idea that our kids are using their phones for most everything. So just about everything we create now, we also create a QR code for. And so QR codes get posted all over the place. And some of the displays we've got in there, if you're somebody who isn't involved in that or wouldn't know about QR codes, you'd walk by and go, what the heck is that display all about? And you'd have to pick up your phone and turn on the camera and point it at the QR codes, and then you'd know what was going on. So that's one component for sure. The other piece is we're trying to deconstruct the institutional feel of school for kids. You know, as we know, the model for schools as a whole is based on a factory model, including the concept of, you know, clocking in and clocking out, and everything is on a specific timeline. And we decided to try and take out one of the pieces, and that's the bells, the thing that drives where you go and what you do. And instead, when kids move from point A to point B in our building now, they hear music in the hallways. And it is hilarious to be standing in the office to start the music as people are moving, to watch teachers, little shimmies and shakes here and there as they either know the song or you know, reflect back on their childhood. Sometimes we pull the oldies out. And then to see kids kind of pulling the dance moves as they move from point A to point B in the hallway. Hallways are not points of conflict at all at this point. They are just interesting things to watch as kids and adults alike seem to respond.
Thank you. And I have been there between passing periods, and the songs that Mark has played when I've been there have been songs I recognize, so it's been really fun. So Candace, what changes have you made or in the school during this COVID pandemic COVID-19 pandemic that have helped you navigate and have moved you forward as well. And I know there have been many, many changes.
Yes, I get to be the COVID person for our building. So there has been many changes, but I think there's a couple that we've decided we'll keep. And that has been, we reduced our passing periods to 3 minutes, and we don't have kids go to the bathroom during passing period. It was a cluster point for kids to hang out and do that. But we've now allowed them to go to the bathrooms during class periods. And we're watching that kids aren't abusing that. They're in class longer. We've almost eliminated our tardies. Kids are just getting there. And it's been great watching that. And then the other thing is that we had just some safety issues with drop off. We have this really long drop-off bus area off Hendrickson. However, people weren't using it. And we just, both of us were kind of baffled by that. Like, why are people not using this drop-off? And they're using our tiny little parking lot by our front door. And then, like, everybody's, like, trying to navigate each other. So we have... we put cones up during drop-off there, and we have rerouted all our parents to that side of our building. And we have found that it's just moved the flow. Kids are in and out, and we don't have a lockup anymore down the road. So we're going to keep both those things.
Well, good. Well, thank you. And Candace mentioned that she is the COVID person at the Sequim Middle School. We have COVID points of contact at every single site, not just our school sites. So I just wanted to mention that to people. So I want to thank both of you. It has been a pleasure talking with you today. And for the rest of you, have a great Friday and a great weekend. Thank you.
Join us next week as we continue with the series, State of Our Schools. Thank you for listening, and have a fantastic Friday, Sequim.